Welcome back to the channel, everyone. ThoughtGore here, of course, and today we are going to take a look at a battle in the October Revolution. Now, obviously, it's pronounced differently in Russian. I'm not going to attempt that pronunciation. We will call it the October Revolution. So this, of course, was a premium Tier 5 Russian battleship, which was given for free to everyone in the game if you completed a certain number of missions. Now, you also had the option of buying the ship from the premium shop, and the benefit to buying the ship from the premium shop was that you would get the special camo right away. I don't have the special camo. I didn't do the extra missions to get it. But anyway, even though it's pretty awesome. But anyway, yeah, if you buy it in the premium shop, you get the special camo right away. I think maybe you got a flag too or something like that. But more importantly, you got the ship right away so that you could do the missions with the ship to get the special containers. I did get my special containers once I bought the ship, but obviously I only had a few days left. I think the missions ended on the 25th of October, and I may have gotten the ship on the 23rd or something like to that effect. So I only had a few days to get those containers, but I still got them, and I got some stuff out of them, which was nice. But whatever. Now, the October Revolution, actually, she served for quite a long time. I believe she was commissioned built rather, in the early 1900s, commissioned before World War I began, and was ultimately decommissioned, I think, in the 50s, 1954, or something to that effect. Obviously, if I'm wrong, just go ahead and correct me in the comments below. I like it when you correct, because there's no need to spread wrong information around. But anyway. So yeah, quite a long history. She finished her time with the Russian Navy as a battleship school, basically, just a training ship, essentially. She did undergo a number of renovations, a number of upgrades through the course of her time while she was in active service. Most famously, I guess, would have been the October Revolution's defense and use during World War II and the Siege of Leningrad, right? She was primarily used as an anti-aircraft platform as well. Her main guns were used to bombard German positions. And actually, quite interestingly, although, anyway, she was bombed quite a few times by German bombers, and, inflicted a whole bunch of damage, but the Russians just kept on repairing her, and I find that interesting, that they just kept repairing her as opposed to just scrapping her at the time. But then again, when you think about it, the Russians didn't have much of a navy in World War II, and on top of that, they needed everything they could possibly get to help defend Leningrad and defend, their land or their country against the invading Germans. So yeah, it makes sense, I suppose, that you'd wouldn't be too quick to get rid of the ship. Now, the characteristics of the ship, pretty typical Tier 5 battleship, right? She's fairly slow. She doesn't have great armor, especially if you take a look at some of the other battleships at Tier 5. She doesn't have the best range. Her guns are small caliber guns. I think they're 12-inch cannons, I think. But what I do like about the Revolution is, first of all, I find that aesthetically, she is very, very unique and very, very beautiful in that sense. I like the way she looks and the uniqueness of her. Now, obviously, being a premium ship, right? Free premium ship, didn't really have a choice as to whether or not I wanted the ship. If Wargaming is going to give me a free ship, I'm going to get that free ship. I don't really care what it is. I want free things. So I was going to get her anyway, and battleships aren't my favorite, but because she's free and premium, I'm more concerned about, or I'm more interested rather, in the little quirks of the ship. I have really no intention on playing this ship a whole lot, even when eventually Russian battleships come out. I guess, yes, I have a ship now to train battleship captains, which is great, or even just to train Russian captains in general, so that's good, but I probably won't be using her too much. The guns, though, are quite nice. I do enjoy them. I know that they're small caliber when you look at other battleships of the same tier. Don't have the best range. but they're still pretty good guns. These are the exact same guns, I believe, that are on the Nikolai, the tier 4 Russian premium battleship. And those are pretty damn good guns. Now, a tier 4, obviously, they're fairly devastating. A tier 5, and this is really a tier 6 game, they are still very, very good and very effective. Something else two other things that are different about this ship is the repair, your damage control party, and your heal ability. Now, these are special abilities, little better than what you would normally get on any other ship if you were to buy the premium modules. So what happens here is you can see on the screen, right, that I have a number of repairs as opposed to just unlimited. So the cooldown for these repairs is quite short, and on top of that, I think the repairs themselves last a little longer than what you would normally get. So that makes the survivability of this ship quite good, assuming that you don't just charge forward and get taken out right away, because the Revolution cannot tank very well, especially broadsides. She can't do it. And in this type of battle here as well, where we're in the tier 6 game, like the Bayern over there can just destroy me. The Fuso can destroy me. What other battleships do we have out there? Well, we see some cruisers as well, but yeah, right. Other battleships can just destroy you. Now, we see the Nuremberg. I think it's a Nuremberg or a Königsberg off there in the distance. Player is going in reverse. Yeah, too bad for that person. That is something actually that the Revolution performs and excels in, is getting rid of cruisers, cruiser deletion, especially at the tier 5, tier 6 level, right? Because the cruisers at these tiers, well, cruisers at any tier in general, have no armor whatsoever, but it is especially true for cruisers at this tier, right? Because you're going to face Omahas, Königsberg, Furutakas, in the British, I guess it's the Emerald for the British, and the French, Emile Beltin is the other one. So no armor whatsoever. Very easy to take the players down. As well, if you do happen to find a poor cruiser or just any enemy ship in general, much like this enemy Revolution off in the distance, who is giving you a broadside, take shots at that enemy. You have a good chance of doing some really good damage to that player, so definitely take those shots. You can see that Revolution does require a bit of cautious play. Again, we touched on it. She doesn't have the best armor. She is not going to be able to take tank damage very well. But if you play cautiously, and if you're not the center of attention, always not the center of attention, you should do quite well. You couple that with a great repair party and great damage control abilities, right? And you actually do find that you can have quite a bit of longevity in this ship, as long as you're paying attention to what you're doing and not getting yourself in too hard of a situation, right? Because the ship, the Revolution herself is not fast. I think it's 24 point something knots is her top speed. She's not fast. You're not going to be able to run away from a situation, but you are, at that speed, you are at a good position to group up with some allies that you have that you have around you, and push and support that group of allies that you're with. And that's essentially what I'm doing down here as well in the south, right? You can see I've got 3 allies that are pretty close to me, and with these allies I'm attempting to help support these players and get some of these enemy ships down, and so far the battle's going pretty good. I just got a bunch of damage there on the old Fuso, which is great, and if we look at the minimap, we can see that our push down here in the south is doing decently, and to the north our push up there is progressing. Those players need to start turning to the south, but it does look like they do have some enemies up there to deal with in the meantime. So yeah, we'll let them go and do that. But yeah, I'm quite happy with this ship that Wargaming has given us. I've had her. I mean, I'm sure we've all had her for a little while now. Gotten used to her, formed our opinions about her. I'm not displeased. She's definitely fun to take out. One of those ships that, take out if we're just messing around with tier 5s and I want some extra cash. Sure, why not? Speaking speaking about cash, I have purchased my Minotaur, so I now do have a Minotaur. I have not been able to sail her out as of yet, and it's because I just don't have the silver to buy all the modules. I'm just missing one module. It's the 3 million module is what I'm missing for the Minotaur, and then I can go ahead and take her out and try her. I'm very excited. I really want to see this Gatling gun effect thing that you can do with the Minotaur. And now, of course, I am grinding towards the Henry. Oh, I can't wait to get that Henry. I think the Henry is going to be fantastic. In fact, I know the Henry is going to be fantastic because I've seen the Henry a lot playing around. I've been talking to friends in game, like Bad Panda, who says that the Henry is probably his favorite ship of all. And in clan battles, our team usually runs a Henry, and it does quite good for us, quite good as indeed. So quite excited to get the Henry, but I'm very happy to have the Minotaur now as well. Speaking about cruisers in game, have you guys seen the Reddit post talking about the cruiser line split with the Americans? Now, this is something that I've actually been waiting for since the early days of the game, maybe as early as like the alpha close weekends, that sort of thing. I have been waiting for this forever. And I knew that this was something that Wargaming would have to do, right? And it, makes sense that they do it with the American line first, but it was the American cruiser line that made me think, no, they have to split the cruisers, make a heavy cruiser line and a light cruiser line, because the American Navy, as we know in World War II, had a lot of cruisers, a lot more than classes of cruisers rather than what we currently have in game in our tech tree. So it makes total sense that they would do that. On top of that, historically, there was always heavy cruisers and light cruisers. Well, not always, but once you get into modern naval warfare, yes, they are separated by that and by those terms. And my understanding is that the only difference between a light cruiser and a heavy cruiser is the caliber of gun. Heavy cruisers, I think, start at 8-inch cannons and up, and your light cruisers, I think, would be 155s, 152s and below, maybe something like that. For example, the Cleveland, who currently sits at tier 6, is going to move into a tier 8 position in the new cruiser line as a tier 8 light cruiser. Fairly excited for that. If you haven't heard about any of this before, just head on over to Reddit, take a look at that. But basically as well, if you do not have your American cruisers, now would be definitely the time to get your American cruisers, because if you have a Cleveland, you are going to get yourself a nice tier 8 once that split takes place. And I mean, we're months away from that split, I would imagine, considering it's only been announced on Reddit and not, well, at least as far as yesterday when I took a look, nothing too official from Wargaming as of yet. But anyway, yeah. There's that. Now, something else that people in the clan have been talking about as well is like making sure to get yourself a Pensacola, buy your Pensacola so that you can, because I think the Pensacola goes to tier 6 maybe, and then you'll get yourself a new ship or something to that effect. I'm not sure. I only have in the American cruiser line, because I really don't like the American cruiser line whatsoever. The Cleveland is fun. Pensacola I hated. New Orleans, I'm not a fan of the New Orleans whatsoever. Maybe if I grind out the Baltimore and the Des Moines, it might be a little different, and I might have some different opinions about those ships, but I'm in no rush to get American cruisers. It's just not my thing. But for anyone who it is, I mean, this is exciting news. I can't wait to see some of the other splits as well, like Japanese splits, the Russian splits, hopefully as well the addition of British heavy cruisers. Something else that I expect to see as well in terms of line splitting, or at least I hope to see, is a split in the battleship lines, so that we can go from traditional battleships that are heavily armored, big guns, and relatively slow, a split to battle cruisers. So we'd have, those two lines going down, much like you have the light cruiser and heavy cruiser line. I would like to see this split. I don't know if it's going to happen. I suspect that maybe it will, but I do also see some issues with that, right? Because, when you get to later battleships, especially the American battleships, and you look at like a ship like the Iowa or the Montana, those are fast battleships, and the whole idea behind a battle cruiser was essentially a ship that carried battleship armament but had less armor protection than a battleship, and by having less armor would mean that the ship is lighter and therefore faster, so that a battle cruiser would easily be able to take on any enemy cruisers that it might encounter, would have the speed to keep up with those cruisers. But then once heavier ships arrived, like enemy battleships, the battle cruiser would then have the speed to sail away and get out of that position. Theoretically, battle cruisers were never meant to take on battleships. Of course, though, as we know, in the Battle of Jutland, it just didn't work that way. Battle cruisers ended up being frontline ships, and as a result, it led to Admiral Beatty's famous quote: "There seems to be something wrong with our ships today." But anyway, I would hope to see that sort of split as well in the battleship tree. I'm just not sure how it's going to work, because when you get to the higher tiers, is there going to be the need for that sort of thing? But anyway, I'd like to see that split too. So, battle is progressing along. We only have 3 enemy ships remaining, and so far we've done pretty well. We're at about 93,000 damage. We got ourselves a Confederate medal, so that's pretty good. We have ourselves an October Revolution here off on the port side of the ship, so we're going to fire our guns and hopefully take the player down as well. Help up the team some more. You can see our shots go in. Yeah, they didn't do so great, and you can expect that from the lower caliber guns, right? They're not going to go in and do a bunch of damage unless it's you have a broadside target. Other than that, no. You can see there we took a torpedo, and you can see that the torpedo protection of the Revolution is almost non-existent. You would really want to avoid taking any sort of torpedoes in this ship, if at all possible. So there we go. We get a full salvo into that Revolution, and we managed to take the player down. I know I've talked about it before, but man, I love these new the new graphics in the game with the firing of your guns, the big, when shells come in, you get those big water columns coming out around where the shells hit. We saw that Revolution explode in a big fireball of black smoke. It just looks so great. I really, really like it. And I like, of course, this is a classic map that we're on right now, New Dawn, and the changes and the upgrading to the visuals that they've been doing to some of these maps, yeah. Very, very good, in my opinion, anyway. Now, we have this enemy destroyer here off in the distance, so we are going to try and get the player gone as best we can, because there's only 2 enemy ships remaining. Both are destroyers, but we do still want to be careful. I don't want to get sunk. But don't need to worry about it, as the battle has finished. So not a bad ship overall. I've taken her out on a few battles. Well, I say a few. Maybe only 10 at most. So obviously my opinion is based around those 10 battles. If you guys have any other information about the Revolution that you would like to share, please do so in the comment section below. I love reading those. We can get a discussion about the ship going on, maybe, or get a discussion about the ship going on, maybe. And yeah, and see where that could potentially lead. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the ship. I didn't pay anything for her, so I'm fairly satisfied with the free thing that I got. Plus, all the free bonuses along the way, and finish the batch with fairly decent results. So that's pretty great. Yeah, all in all, I enjoy the ship. But anyway, that is the end of today's video. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to hit the like button and to leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about today's video. Hit subscribe if you are not a subscriber. And as always, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.